Hi, I'm Claire of Grief Conversations with Claire. I am continuing my series on types of grief, and today we're going to be discussing disenfranchised grief. I am Claire, a grief coach, a grief educator and a speaker, and I am a bereaved granddaughter to my nan and granddad, bereaved sibling to my older sister Lisa, and doggy mum to my dog Maggie. As I've talked about on my other episodes that we've done on types of grief, and there's still a couple more to come as well. This is not about comparing your grief. This is not a competition. Our own worst grief is our own worst grief. This is also not about labeling. It's about giving you language to understand what might be going on for you and what you're experiencing. As I said, this is not a competition. With disenfranchised grief, I feel like that can come through even more, because when you're disenfranchised, you kind of want to fight for your corner in the space. And when I look at grief, I look at it as like a pie, and kind of how we talk about love is continuously expansive, and the pie just gets bigger and bigger and bigger, or in my case the cake would just get bigger and bigger and bigger, and you have the space for everyone and everyone's grief, and it's our own worst. And we saw this during COVID, where you had down kind of at one end of teenagers that didn't get to have their prom, and that being utterly devastating to them, to the other end where people were dying and having to die alone. Or when it kind of, we adapted a little bit and you were with them on FaceTime whilst they passed. So you've got the either end of the spectrum, and there's everything in between, and it was all our own worst. So if we can stop disenfranchising ourselves, we can stop disenfranchising everyone and not have this be a type of grief anymore. And that would be something that I would love to see happen. And I'm going to say this a couple of times. Pop in the comments below where you feel you've been disenfranchised, because I want you to feel seen, and I want to talk about it and address it. And if I don't know about it, then I will go and do my research and come back to you as well on that. So please, please, please put something below. As always, I'm in the kitchen with you. I've got a new apron on that was given to me by a wonderful set of friends for my birthday, so I figured I would wear it with you guys for today. And I'm going to record a couple of these episodes, so you'll see the same setup, because I'm going to make something that is not homemade. In England, you're going to know exactly what this is, and this is like very 1970s, 1980s item, and they're a little hard to find in the supermarket. My mum brought this over for me back in February when she came to visit, and I hadn't made it yet. I'd kind of forgotten it was in the cupboard, and I thought, well, there's three parts to it, which you can probably see from the picture. You've got your jelly, you've got your custard, and then you've got your dream topping on the top with the sprinkles. So I'm going to do a video with each section of this, and I'm going to do the jelly crystals to you. So I'm going to quickly measure that out, because it doesn't take much, but it is all out of a packet. And I am not sat here ever proclaiming that I don't make things out of a packet or eat things out of a packet. When it comes to a Battenberg cake, which if you're following this current series of the Great British Bake Off, they made Battenberg in there, and I like the store-bought version, much like I like my bottle of Heinz tomato ketchup and my jar of Hellmann's mayonnaise. Those are the ones for me. I don't want any of the fancy stuff. That's what I want. And when it comes to this type of trifle, this is the 101, and there'll be pictures from another episode that I'm going to post where I made a totally homemade trifle. I did a chocolate orange one, which I think is one of the best combos out there of chocolate orange. Thank you, Terry's, if you were the ones that invented that with your Terry's chocolate orange. Absolutely love it. And so I made a homemade one. So I do it all, and it makes me all very happy. So I'm just going to measure out the water. I boiled the kettle before I got on with you guys, and I just need 425 mils of boiling water, and then I'm going to dissolve the crystals over it, and then they need to sit for about 10 minutes. And I don't think I'm going to be on with you guys quite for 10 minutes, but as always, when I do these videos with progression, I will share it all with you. Even the crystals are delicious. And I'm not a professional kitchen, so I get to lick and eat things, and this is not being shared with anyone, so I get to do all the licking and everything that I want to. Okay, so that's the jelly made, and I will leave that set aside whilst I chat with you guys. So I touched on it a little bit in reference to COVID and how that affected a lot of us, and there was so much grief during COVID and so much still going on from it, from the trauma that we experienced and the ongoing effects with it as well. It's kind of back in my top of my mind because I'm going to be traveling soon and going to see my mum, and I think about it. Yeah, my mum's older, and am concerned about traveling and sharing things with her. Luckily, just with how travel plans went, I'm not going to see her straight away when I get home because she's going to be out of town anyhow, and so I get to have a little bit of a mini quarantine period around that, which makes me feel safer around it. So I've got notes, as I always tell you guys, to make sure I cover everything, and I'll drop stuff down in the comments below as well. So disenfranchised grief can also be anything that we feel we can't grieve out in public, and we need to do it in private. And grief can be anything that is a loss of something. It doesn't need to be someone that has passed away. That is generally the way we think about it, but it doesn't need to be that. It can be other types of losses. There are living losses as well, and I'm going to do an episode on that. It could be anything from, you may have a person that passed away that is your ex-spouse, ex-partner. You're no longer connected to them. You might not be connected to any of the people that were part of that relationship for you. But if they pass away, you may well feel grief around that. And if you're in another relationship or something, you might not feel that you've got the space to be able to grieve that loss because you've got a new partner or a new kind of community setup, and that it might not be seen as a loss. And it is. It absolutely is a loss. You can be estranged from a family member, and you could have chosen to do that. They could have chosen to do it. When they pass away, the hope of reconciliation has gone, or the hope of even just being in contact with them, that just has gone. And that is a loss of that hope, as well as a loss of the person having passed away. It could be you have gotten divorced, and it was a divorce that you chose, and you're still going to experience grief in that. You might have absolutely elation and be like, woohoo, I'm out of it, or so glad that chapter is closed. But you can also have grief for what you had initially expected that life was going to look like. When most of us get married, we think it's going to be till the end of time, let's say, and that you are both going to die old and still be married. And that's not necessarily the case of what happens nowadays. So you could experience grief within that for the life you thought you were going to have, and that you're now not going to have, and all the other losses that go along with that. And I'll talk about that in the secondary losses and living losses episode as well. But it is grief, and it is valid. Another one is kind of what I talked about with the estrangement, but you could have chosen to step away from family members, and those members are still alive, but you chose to step away because it wasn't the relationship that was healthy for you, and you get to have grief over not having the relationship you needed, especially if it's a parent that you didn't have the parents that you as a child, and that is, you're a child, when you have parents, you are a child, no matter how old you are, and that you didn't have the parents or parent that you needed throughout your life to support you, and that you get to grieve that. That is absolutely valid grief. You're going to get, for women, perimenopause and menopause happens, and that can dredge up a lot of things of either things that maybe you didn't have occur in your life, that now with perimenopause and menopause that they now can't occur. There is the loss of the body you knew, and what the future looks like as well. And for people that experience medical conditions that go along with menopause and perimenopause, you experience the loss of that, whether it's bone density, pregnancy or other things. And that's a whole different topic. I'm not going to get into that. If you want to look into menopause and perimenopause stuff, look at Dr. Louise Newsom. That's a UK-based person. And then in the US, there's Dr. Mary Claire Haver. Those two are great resources. They're online, and I would highly recommend seeking those two out if you need some information in that area. With disenfranchised grief, that's where your peer-to-peer support groups come in really, really handy, because you can find people that either have the same loss as you, like with maybe there's an ex-spouse group that you can find, and seek those out and be able to talk to people that have got a like loss like you. Or you're just in a peer-to-peer group and you're like, wow, look at all of these losses that have gone on that I didn't think were going to be a loss. If you don't pass judgment out to them, then you're less likely to pass judgment on yourself. And that's what grows the expansiveness of dissolving disenfranchised grief, so that then we can look at it as the individual pieces that it actually is. So there's that part. I mentioned it at the top of the video, and I'm going to say it again, or at the episode, is if through me speaking, you're like, hey, what about me? Put it in the comments below. I want to hear from you, because if you feel disenfranchised, one, I don't want to continue that on, and two, I want to know about it. If it's not something I have an understanding around, then I will go and do my homework, and I will let you know that I will do that, so that we can look into it and I can bring it up in another episode. And that's something else. Any comments or questions you've got, pop it in the comments below. I will add it to the episode that it aligns best with. And as I'm getting towards the end of this series, it might be that I do a whole wrap-up episode at the end of questions that came up and things, and we'll cover it there for you. So please, please, please do say something. And then to start my work in the disenfranchised world and dissolving it is around separating out pet loss. Pet loss normally gets put in with the disenfranchised part, and I want to dissolve that out and speak to that in specific. I've been there and experienced it. I've seen it with other people around me, and it's hard. And it should be seen as its own type of grief and honoured and respected in that way. So that's how I'm going to start my work, because that's a place I know where to start. So again, drop a comment below if you're feeling disenfranchised by myself or others out there, and I would like to address it. So we're going to do that. And then the next episode is going to be in reference to delayed grief, and that's the grief that has quite literally been delayed, and that could be for any number of reasons and any period of time that it has been delayed. So we're going to do that. And what I'm going to do whilst I'm on with you, so it's going to make a little bit of noise, you get these lovely sponge fingers, as they get called in this. I also know them as I think it's Italian lady fingers as well, and Italian cookies, I think they might get known as well. So I just, whilst they're in the packaging, because it's less messy, is break them all up. I break each one into about 4 pieces, just because I'm a little logical that way, and I put it in a bowl. And I did an episode on rituals, and as anyone that's following the series and following me, you'll know I'm ritual based, and I am a tangible person when it comes to memories coming back. So this is my nan's glass bowl. I have no recollection as to whether the trifle is going to fit in here, so we will be finding that out over the course of these episodes and see if it fits, but I will be trying that in here. Okay, so that is all for today, so keep watching. I will say it again, put the comments below. Do the like and subscribe thing. We ask you to do that for a reason, because it helps other people see the videos, and with grief being such a topic that needs to be normalized and discussed, I would really love for more people to see my stuff out there, and anyone else's stuff on grief, because the more we talk about it, all the better it is. So take care of you. I will continue with this, and the next episode will be on delayed grief, and I will be at the custard powder stage. All right, take care of you.